Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be talking about Tom Jones, but I'm not really going to focus on the earlier years. I'm going to focus on maybe the last 30, 35 years and focus on the later part of his career because we all know and love the originals. This box set here that came out just last year, I believe it was, this contains 17 CDs. This basically covers the years 65 to 75. This is the classic stuff that we all know. You know, What's New Pussycat and all that great stuff. It has all those albums. Plus down here in the corner, there's a 2 CD set which features non-album singles and B-sides and EP tracks. And this is an absolutely essential set. If you love that powerhouse voice, he really takes, he turns Sugar Sugar, the Archie song Sugar Sugar, into a Tom Jones song. It's truly amazing how he just takes control, and it's incredible. I wanted to show you that first before I delve into the later stuff. Now, in the mid-70s to maybe mid-80s, he was essentially a country artist, and I think some of that stuff is out on CD, but it's way out of my price range. But I did manage to get a Tom Jones in Nashville compilation, which covers that period. And again, this is that late 70s, early 80s country music. That voice takes over and just he just really, truly, he makes everything his own. Now, everybody knows that Tom Jones, the resurgence really happened when Art of Noise took him into the studio and had him record a version of the Prince song Kiss, and that was a huge worldwide hit. And in order to capitalize on that, of course, signed him to an album deal, and out came this album called Move Closer. Now in the UK it was called At This Moment, and the album opens with Kiss by Tom Jones with Art of Noise, and the rest of the album sounds nothing like that, but it is nice late 80s pop R&B. Not every song is fantastic, but his voice is just so strong throughout. I think during this period it was very difficult for producers and labels to figure out what they wanted to do with his voice. Did they want to take his voice and create this new modern music around it, or did they just want to throw him into some modern funk or rock stew and see if he could swim or drown? Well, this right here is a little bit of both. It does have some really good moments on it, and it is recommended. It's not the greatest album in the world. Then the next album was Carrying a Torch. I don't think this even came out in the US. This came out in 1991. This has 4 songs produced by Van Morrison, and they're rootsy and really nice sounding, and Tom's sounding wonderful on them. The rest of the album here is close to that. There are a couple songs on there that are kind of like Move Closer, where they're kind of like, trying to get that funky feel and to have them really rock out. Those aren't as successful as the ones that are more roots oriented, more Van Morrison type tracks. But it is definitely an album to seek out and check out, because it's definitely better as a whole than Move Closer. The next album did come out in the US. It's called The Lead and How to Swing It. And this had some really good songs on it. This is, his voice is in full force. There's some great dancey songs on here. There's some great pop songs on here. There's a great ballad on here called I Want to Get Back With You, featuring Tori Amos on backing vocals. And it's really a lovely song. There's a version of Situation, the Yazoo song, on here, which is really fun. Now, some of this is kind of housey sounding, dancey. It was really hard because, Tom Jones had these fans from the 60s and stuff, and what they were doing is they were throwing him in to create music for a crowd that had never heard him or just thought of him as, old guard. So it's difficult to kind of sell that. But this album is, I'd say half it is really successful. And it's called The Lead and How to Swing It. That came out in 1994. Now, the next album is real fun and pretty darn great. It's called Reload. And essentially what it does is it has Tom Jones collaborating with various artists. So on this album, he collaborates with Stereophonics, with Portishead, with Robbie Williams, with Van Morrison is on this album. He does a great version of the Talking Heads song, Burning Down the House, with the Cardigans. And it's really a fun album. It's very 1999, very Britpop influenced, but this album I think used Tom right, because they were showing, hey, this artist influenced all these different bands, so let's throw them together in the studio and have them record a bunch of cover versions. And yeah, it's really good. And it's not like the bands are recording their own songs. Like Space, they record the Kink song Sunny Afternoon, so that's really fun. But that's a really good album. 1999 came Reload. Now in 2002 out comes the album Mr. Jones, but this I don't think is really that successful. They threw him together with Wyclef Jean, and it sounds like a Wycliffe Jean album with Tom Jones singing, as opposed to a Tom Jones album produced by Wycliffe Jean. But it's not something that I would recommend unless you're into that sort of early 2000s R&B sound. Very well produced, very well written. I just don't think it suits Tom Jones, in my opinion. In 2004, out comes the album Tom Jones and Jules Holland. This is a fun album. It's got traces of rockabilly, of swing, of boogie woogie, of rock and roll, early 50s rock and roll, and it's just two veterans of the industry, so to speak, getting together and having fun. And it's a great collection of blues and country and really, really fun songs on this album. Now in 2008, out came the album 24 Hours. This is absolutely stellar. This is fantastic. I mean, the album is produced, it's modern, but it sounds like it's just this weird mix, mashup of modern pop music, modern soul music, mixed with very, very, very heavy, dense 60s sound, 60s influence. This is just a great collection of songs, great collection of performances. Definitely, probably out of what I've talked about so far, this is my favorite of the modern Tom Jones albums, and highly, highly recommended. Now, 2010 came the first in a series of these wonderful, almost haunting albums. This is called Praise and Blame. It's acoustic, folk, gospel, blues oriented, and it's haunting. It sounds like it was recorded in a cabin filled with ghosts of music's past, but he sounds wonderful, and he sounds comfortable too. He's not trying to rock out. I mean, he can when he gets into the blues shouting and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty great. But this was the first of 3 albums that followed the same formula, and just absolutely fantastic. The next one was 2012's Spirit in the Room. And then finally, when I first saw this, I thought this might have been like a collection of like unreleased B-sides. It's got an old picture of Tom, and it's called Long Lost Suitcase. I was thinking it might be like unreleased recordings, but actually it's the third in this trilogy. And again, just wonderful performances. If you love acoustic blues, acoustic gospel, folk with a rock edge, you're definitely going to love these. All 3 of these mine that same vein, and if you have at least one of these, you're going to like the other 2. So definitely check those out. And now, of course, the brand new album called Surrounded by Time. This is kind of like a mixture of what has come in the last 25 years. It does have some songs that are sort of that acoustic blues, but this is it's a very adventurous, very experimental album. He still sounds wonderful. It's called Surrounded by Time, and it really does sound like it. It sounds like each song you're swirling in different eras of his career, and it's all happening at the same time. This is like multi-universe Tom Jones, and it's a real nice record. You should definitely check it out. Now that's it with the studio albums, but I just wanted to point out a couple fun things that I've discovered over the course of the last maybe couple years. Both of these compilations, Reloaded and The Best of Tom Jones, and several others, they combine the old classics from the Decca box, all the hits, plus with the more modern stuff as well. So if you want to hear a great collection of Tom Jones, through his career, both of those would be worth your while. And then finally, the Why Did You Buy That Schnee CD? This is called Do You Think I'm Sexy? And he used to have like a TV show, I think in Canada, and he'd perform songs on it that he didn't actually record, like Do You Think I'm Sexy, and listen to the music by Doobie Brothers. So whoever has started repackaging all those performances and putting them out on CDs. Well, what they did with this one is they put like modern techno house club remixes of some of those performances, and I just thought that sounded so interesting. I got to check it out. Now it's probably not even good as I described it right now, but it's still a really nice collection of songs that you should check out. These are not remixes of the old classics. These are remixes of later performances. But anyway, that's it. I appreciate you sitting around and allowing me to talk about Tom Jones. I've loved Tom Jones ever since I was a kid. So anyway, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and to ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.